Um, yeah, there's some exciting news here. Apparently, Dan Bongino is dropping some like straight up knowledge on this whole assassination attempt that happened on former President Donald Trump. Let's go see what he has to say.
Truth, and they're trying to hide something, and the pattern recognition always goes to some.
This is Matt Gaetz speaking to him, I'm pretty sure.
Form of scapegoating. We saw it at DOD when people refused the vax, they were scapegoated and driven out. We saw it at FBI when whistleblowers talked about spying at school board meetings and at Catholic churches, they were driven out. And now I take note of the fact that certain people at the Pittsburgh field office have been put on leave. And I've also seen the story change where initially the Secret Service was blaming folks in local government, and then there was admission that there weren't appropriate responses to requests for additional manpower. So what I'd really like to do with you is bring us into that process, because Senator Hawley now has a whistleblower saying there was a manpower request that was coming out of Pittsburgh, and headquarters Secret Service was putting downward pressure on the local agents to try to reduce the intensity of that manpower request. So give Congress a little sense. How does that get developed? And then what should we think about the fact that someone is saying that headquarters was trying to get people to not make requests of enhanced protection?
Well, I can give you an example from personal experience. I saw Senator Hawley's tweet. The Secret Service is going to rely on this and what they're trying to do now, and you're accurate in your analysis about how this cover-up is starting to work. What they're going to say is, well, there was no real formal request made. But here's an example, and then I'll tie something to something that happened to me. Imagine you're working for a company, a public company. It's actual accountability, stock will tank or whatever. You can't make products that'll kill people. You'll go out of business. If you do, there's a penalty. But imagine you're told by your safety guy, you're the CEO, and your chief safety officer says 50 to 60 times, hey, again, this widget has a defect. And if we put this out, it's going to kill someone. And it's clear after the 50th time that the CEO doesn't care. So when the 51st time you tell the product blows up, the CEO's going to say, well, he didn't tell me yesterday. Well, he didn't tell you because he told you 50 times before and you ignored him. So what they're doing now is Ron Rowe, the acting director, who is the deputy director, the number 2, who is unbelievably, again, got a promotion out of this. A guy was murdered and someone got promoted, which is obscene and disgusting.
Wow.
He is part and parcel to this whole day-to-day ADPO, Assistant Director, Protective Operations, Deputy Director, Director chain that makes management decisions. When they tell you early on, we are not doing this for President Trump, Congressman. We're not doing counter-sniper teams. We're not doing CSU. And then they say, well, on that day, we didn't deny assets. You didn't have to. You've been denying them for 4 years. I was told by a direct source, this is the quote, that at Mar-a-Lago, they were begging the DTD, the Donald Trump detail, begging for enhanced security. We can't secure this place like this. And one of the quotes from one of those 3 people I just told you about was, we don't secure nightclubs. Really? What if a nightclub owner runs for president? You don't secure you secure whatever the hell they tell you to secure. That's not your job. That is what happened here. And that's what they're going to rely on. And that's where you guys, I think, have had the guts to take this on. Do not let them fall back on euphemisms and word games where they go, well, that specific day we didn't say no to any assets. Have you in the past? How often? Matter of fact, how many counter-surveillance teams have you actually dedicated? What percentage of Trump sites? How many CS teams? There's a story out there that was the first time counter-sniper Secret Service assets were ever used at a Donald Trump site. So you're telling me your most threatened protectee had no professional Secret Service overwatch? As Ben showed, these guys are more than skilled and competent. They don't need the Secret Service to tell them how to do their job.
I think that gets to this intent question that Congressman Mills framed up perfectly at the beginning of our discussion. Congressman Mills says the key question here is whether this was your run-of-the-mill government incompetence, or whether you see features of such just disregard for the duty at hand that you believe there's some malice. And in his opening statement, Mr. Prince says when the incompetence reaches a certain point, you can impute the malice to that. And what I think you have unique experience in is, well, like this culture of denying requests, like to Trump, or a circumstance where not even the Donald Trump detail, but the folks in the Pittsburgh field office who are not normally on the Trump detail were saying, hey, just based on this, we might need more, and they were discouraged from even making those requests, so they couldn't be denied. I think you can give us a lot of insight into the type of questions we need to be asking and of who to understand that culture, because like you think of the Secret Service, they're off with a number of of protectees, yes, right? Of all kind of different profiles and different, I guess, priority, for lack of a better term. And so, like, what should we think about imputing malice at a point in which Donald Trump, one of the most threatened people on the planet Earth, is having to endure these denials and this culture of limited protection while you're seeing other details, beefed up substantially?
I think, and I don't think I put this out yet, but I'll put it out there now. When I was there, it was definitely not a political enterprise. It just wasn't. I never once, working for President Clinton, Bush, and Obama, had anyone even remotely implicate a political motive for any decision whatsoever. However, from the commentary directed at some of the agents in charge of the Donald Trump detail, which I've heard about,
somebody had to be approached. There's some political.
It appears that for the first time in American history, we have a Secret Service that is making decisions that may not be all political, but may have a political tinge to them. So what you're saying, I would love to say, Congressman, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. But I tell you with a pure heart, and I'm being absolutely candid, I have no skin in this game. I don't work there anymore. I am not their PR guy. I run my own business. I absolutely believe Donald Trump and an enhanced security posture he should have had would have made him look more presidential, would have facilitated the logistical operation of him traveling. I think they were concerned about optics and making him look like a big shot or whatever, word you want to throw out there. And they were making some of these decisions based purely on grade school level politics.
I don't want to believe that, but I didn't want to believe it with the FBI either. I didn't want to believe it with the NIH either. I mean, a lot of these agencies that have been, crazy, I think, subject to political capture, we want to think of them as above that. And we all spend time around Secret Service. We're inspired by their patriotism and the willingness you have to literally take a bullet for someone if necessary. But just like in the military, just like at the FBI, I worry about the political capture happening at headquarters, and then that culture informing decisions in a way that's very damaging to the country. So what Mr. Bongino just said ought to be the most important work of the United States Congress, to figure out if these decisions were run-of-the-mill incompetence that you've got to deal with the better tech and the better processes and the better HR and getting rid of the DEI. But if it's something even darker and more devious than that, that must be rooted out, because what we've seen at these other agencies of government is it does not cure itself. It has to be excised, and that investigation is the most important work we can do. I thank you guys for leading this effort, and I yield back.
Interesting.
Thank you, Mr. Gaetz. With that, I just want to go first to you, Mr. Prince. You said you roughly have about 3,500 at the peak of Blackwater, correct?
That's right.
Secret Service currently has approximately 7,000, approximately. What was your highest annual revenue, if you don't mind me asking, give or take, for that many operations?
For that, the protective mission was about 2,500 to 2,800, and that revenue would have been around $600 million.
So $600 million for that.
And again, that's deploying in a war zone where 41 of our men, my men, were killed.
So
in
safe
action.
to say, if you had $3.3 billion allocated to you, you could have done some even more miraculous things with resource and assets, correct?
I'll give a simple comparison. Around 2005, George W. Bush wanted to grow the size of the Border Patrol. I remember being called to a congressional hearing then because they compared what it would cost us to train a new CBP agent versus what the federal government was going to take. And our figure came in at their figure was actually higher than sending someone to Harvard for 4 years, and that's to train a guy for 4 months. That's it. So
that's crazy.
The federal government blows money.
That's
I said in my testimony.
And my point is that The failed
So
metric
stupid.
of government, whereby the more we spend,
ridiculous.
the better outcome we receive, is a flawed and failed measure, which is why we're at $36 trillion in deficit. And the reason I use that $3 billion, as you know, Mr. Prince, is because that's the actual amount that appropriators have allocated to the Secret Service, which means that, to Dan Bongino's comment, they shouldn't be utilizing past equipment to serve tomorrow. They should have more than enough assets and resources in place with a $3 billion budget. Would you not agree?
Certainly.
And I want to go to you, Mr. Bongino. I want to point out some things because culture failure, as my colleague has pointed out and others, I want to mention a couple of things. August 14th, 2024 is reported failure that a Secret Service agent abandoned her post without permission to breastfeed child before Donald Trump was scheduled to arrive in North Carolina. August 12, 2024, it was reported that a Secret Service special agent who was an official site agent for the July 13 Butler PA rally is under investigation for posting videos and photos for protective assignments to social media. July 27, 2024, a Secret Service agent covered the security camera of a local salon in Pittsburgh, Massachusetts before an event featuring Kamala Harris where the salon was closed, but opened it up without approval and utilizing restrooms for an hour and a half while the building security alarm was going off. July 2nd, 2023, it was reported that a former Secret Service Director Cheadle and senior agency leader sought to destroy the cocaine found in the White House in July of 2024. The evidence was not destroyed due to pushback in individuals in the Secret Service Forensic Service divisions. May 2024, a man enters the U.S. Secret Service Miami field office through a propped open door and was not removed from the building until the following morning. April 24, 2024, a special agent assigned to Harris's detail had a mental breakdown where the agent is reported to have physically attacked the commanding agent in charge at the base after verbal disputes with other agents. Sometime during 2023 and 2024, at least 2 people breached President Obama's Hawaii residence. Though the president wasn't there at the residence, his 2 daughters were on premise at the time. April 2023, a drunken intruder entered the home of National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan in the middle of the night. The man was able to gain access to Sullivan's home despite 24/7 Secret Service protective services in Sullivan due to the sensitive nature of his position. Now, I want to go back to a comment that you made, Mr. Bongino, where you said none of these problems are new. I think just the list of those that I've just mentioned shows that this is not a new problem, but it's existed for quite a while. And with a $3 billion annual budget, I would think that we would start evaluating those mistakes to make those corrective actions. Would you agree with the things that I've listed, with the budget that is allocated, that there should be a much better provision of security for protectees than what you're seeing today?
I think so.
There's zero dispute about this. You know, Mr. Prince's company had accountability. People fire him and find a new company if he lost a protectee. You can't fire the Secret Service. 18 U.S.C. 3056, they're obligated to protect him. The Secret Service has a culture problem, Congressman. I was an instructor in our training academy in Beltsville, Maryland for 3 years. I ran operations over there, taught investigations over there, spent a little time in the Control Tactics Unit. Was there for 3 years. Unfortunately, I can't count on one hand. I would need probably 2 and toes as well to count how many agents who could not meet even basic protective functioning skills and criminal investigative skills, but who met other criteria completely irrelevant to job performance, who were pushed through and told with a wink and a nod, this woman or man needs to graduate. Well, why? They're clearly incompetent. Every instructor who's encountered this person has said this person's incompetent to the point where in judgment drills, they're killing the protectee in the judgment drills. That's kind of not what we do. You're not supposed to shoot the protectee yourself in a simunition drill. And you would say things, you would hear things, from special agents in charge. And I encourage you all to look into this, how the training center works and how they graduate students, where they would say, well, that person files a lot of complaints, like EEO complaints. Okay, well, are they real? That sounds serious. Sounds like a serious thing to me. I take that stuff seriously. And they would say, well, they file them enough that it's become a nuisance and they're not really legitimate, but because this person files a lot of complaints, we need to graduate them. Some of those people now, matter of fact, not just a few, but many are out on protective assignments now. And again, this is not...
The thing is that DEI plays a major role, not meritocracy, with regards to the current culture that has been fostered.
No, not the major role. The Secret Service right now is dominated by D. It's not a role. It's the role. You ask agents on the president.
I think
what
everyone's heard me say before, DEI equals DIE. You know, DEI stands for.
Yo, shout out to Congressman Matt
Bongino.
Gaetz. Shout out to Mr. Prince here. Shout out to Dan Bongino. Dude, they just
What a government.
woo, spicy, like straight up, like bars. It's like, is it incompetency? With all the money that they have, why didn't they have the assets that they needed, right? And if the assets weren't diverted to have Dr. Joe Biden in Pittsburgh that same night, if those forces, those assets weren't diverted to be able to help her out, then what's the issue then? Like, how did that happen? How did this guy get on this roof to do that if, you know, the money is there? How can this guy do that if the people, if they have all the assets, huh? If they have everyone there, it just, man, it don't seem right. And this guy, Dan Bongino, said grade school politics. I don't like him. He puts mean tweets. Boo-hoo. I don't want to protect him. Yo. Oh, man. And then they brought up the stuff that happened at that rally that Kamala Harris had, where a Secret Service woman breaks down a door to let these women go use their bathroom, which you could say, well, they probably compensated. No, you broke into a building that you don't own. It don't matter what it is. It's not like you're breaking in the building to go, you know, contact the authorities to use their phone. You're the Secret Service. Go find somewhere to go use a bathroom. Or maybe that should have been planned out on Kamala Harris's side to get all these women their freaking bathrooms. Like, no one thought about that, right? And then Congressman Matt Gaetz, he brings up all these incidents where there's some random lunatic pulling up on a political person's or politician's property and going in and trying to steal stuff or trying to attack them. The whole thing with Nancy Pelosi's husband. I don't even know if Congressman Matt Gaetz even brought that up, but yeah. And Gretchen Whitmore or whatever that lady's name, who had the folks pull up to her house or something like that. And something happened to her son or husband or whatever. It's so crazy. Like, this stuff happens, meaning like there is a history of, you know, people, you know, figuring their way out, like figuring their way to, you know, get through authorities to go do some stuff. I think he was just trying to give a pure comparison of like incompetency or like someone smart and they have the budget, they're willing to, they know how to maneuver to get around these people, to get to that person, to do whatever that they need to do. Was it incompetency that led to this person getting up there, or was it they had everything that they needed? You know, the defenders had everything that they needed, but the person on the other side was just too smart. And it's like, I don't know. And then he brings up, is there a darker motive to all of this? Is it incompetency or is it a darker motive? Is there politics to it? And does it just come down to grade school politics? Well, I don't like you, so guess what? You're not going to get the best stuff. But I like you, so you're going to get all the best stuff. Like, that's what it comes down to, being like this grade school politics, in my personal opinion. Let me know what you folks think in the comment section below. Hit the like, share, and a subscribe button. It's your boy KWTV. We checked out live now from Fox. They have the title, Trump shooting. Dan Bongino says Secret Service acted in, quote, grade school politics, end quote, for Trump's safety. Let me know. All right. That was supposed to be a quick news broadcast today, which I think we will. So they did it at the Las Vegas spot. Interesting. Okay. Interesting. Mario Nafal says California to consider $150,000 home loans for illegal immigrants. California is closing to approving. California is close to approving a measure that would make illegal immigrants eligible for up to $150,000 in in-state in-state supported home loans for down payments. The California Dream for All program would provide 20% down payment assistance with no savings required from recipients. Governor Gavin Newsom, spokesperson, said he would evaluate the bill on its merits if it reaches his desk. Critics argue that this measure could incentivize illegal immigration to the state. Riddle me this. How do immigrants strengthen our country, but not their own? Pomponomics. Man, that's a banger right there. The Duke of Cupie. Step 1, identify as an illegal immigrant. Step 2, get $150,000 for new home. Step 3, buy home. Step 4, sell home. Step 5, keep the difference. Step 6, repeat steps 1 through 5. That's insane. Yo, that's insane. California is $750 billion in debt, and their solution is to buy homes for. This is crazy. What about Californians? So foreigners get new houses to live in, while native Californians languish in small rentals. Languish! How long until people start pretending to be illegal immigrants for housing and healthcare benefits? Housing crash loading. If this doesn't scream replacing American citizens, I don't know what else will. This is another one of Harris' major accomplishments.
Honestly, I can't answer that.
I want to know, are you excited about Kamala Harris running for president?
Yeah, I am.
Absolutely.
100%.
I am excited.
Why?
Yeah.
What was your favorite accomplishment of hers as VP of the United States?
Honestly, I can't answer that question.
You know, honestly, that's a good question. I can't really